Going to get going now. Thank you very much to everyone who's on the live stream. I've literally just started the live stream, so if you just join me now, we just got going on it. What I'm going to cover on this Facebook Live event with Uspace is I'm actually going to try and run through my kind of top tips for for kind of coming out of this kind of difficult period from a digital strategy perspective. There are a lot of different levels to this, so I'm just covering like kind of five what I would describe as quite practical tips. For those who don't know who I am, I'm a digital strategy consultant based up in Manchester. If you want to find me, my site is casey-digital.co.uk. And you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, Casey at Casey Digital, CASEY Digital. So that's the introduction. Thank you to Uspace for giving me this platform. It's an amazing co-working space. For those who haven't seen it, it is unreal. Where can you find a rhino, a living wall, and a greenhouse all in one living space? And the people are all right as well, So I'm going to get straight into it. Point number one, and the first thing that I'd like to see in this kind of digital strategy planning from anybody who I'm talking to or working with is kind of looking at your customer funnel, your customer journey. What does that look like now? I would draw it in Post-it note form. I would say, right, okay, we like to break things down. So it's awareness, engagement, conversion, retention, and then you can go further than that as well for like advocacy and pushing things out through kind of retention programs. But just to keep it very simple, kind of 4 tiers to it. Awareness is going after new audiences, so attracting new people who don't know anything about your business. Engagement is engaging with people who haven't actually converted with you yet, but they're aware of who you are. They might have spent some time on your Instagram or your website or whatever. Conversion is obviously getting your new and existing customers to convert into a sale or a lead or whatever it might be that you do as a business, and get them through as a customer. Then the kind of bottom layer to that, what we describe is retention, is all the things that you're doing to actually engage with the people who've converted with you, who've signed up to your newsletter, who might have done business with you in the past or filled in a lead inquiry. So they're the kind of tiers that we're looking at. And what I would be talking to businesses, or what I am talking to businesses about at the moment, is what does that look like post kind of lockdown? When we come out of lockdown, it's going to be a very different place in terms of that customer funnel. I think particularly at the top of the funnel, I think right now, not a lot of people are actually going out and they might be browsing, but I don't think they're necessarily going in and kind of converting with new brands. So it's kind of like, what are you going to say that's going to be different in that market? Because I imagine there's going to be a big kind of boom when all the advertising campaigns come back on. Apparently 86% of all planned marketing activity in May has been cancelled or delayed. So I think a lot of people are keeping the media spend dry and the powder dry, to kind of push campaigns, whether that's August, September, October, coming up to kind of peak period and Black Friday. So I would normally do this through Post-it notes or a whiteboard or something like that. You just lay out, right, okay, what are the tactics that we're doing to acquire new customers? What are the tactics that we're doing to engage with people, to keep them engaged with the brand, which is really important at the moment, because you want to make sure that you're not kind of going silent during this COVID period. What are you doing to convert people? Then what are you doing to retain people? Now, at the moment, a lot of people are spending time bottom of the funnel, mid to bottom of the funnel. So you send in engaging content, good news messages, what's going on in the company, we'll be back in the future, that kind of stuff. But really, as we phase out of this, I think everybody needs to just lay that out. And I would have it visual. I normally would do this with the client, where you'd have it like visually in the office where the team can actually see what they're working through. So I would definitely recommend that you guys take a look at that. So looking at your customer funnel, the customer journey from start to finish, from not knowing who you are to converting and then becoming an advocate of the brand long term, you need to review what's going to change during that period of time in your sector, for your products, for your market, whatever it might be. So there's going to be impact. It's just better to plan it out now, because whatever happened before, 2019 or whatever, beginning of 2020, your funnel's going to change fundamentally. So you need to make sure that your user behavior, starting with your audience, I always say start with your audience. Make sure that you understand how their behaviors are going to change post-COVID or post-lockdown or whatever we're going to describe it as. Make sure that kind of you're ready for that and that you've created the right kind of marketing funnel or content or website experience to actually adapt to the changes that are going to happen. So point number one in my kind of top 5 digital strategy tips for post lockdown is to make sure that you're looking at your customer funnel and that you're optimizing that for post COVID, and you're planning that now. So your exit strategy for your customer funnel is really kind of considered. The second point, or the second recommendation that I'd like to put across to you guys, is something that I would always recommend to any business, and something that a lot of businesses are doing right now, and I think it's a very smart move, is to focus on your conversion rate. So if you're a lead gen business or if you're a e-commerce business, your conversion rate is probably dropped right now. However, what you can do is you could actually use this period of time to do some split testing or do something a little bit different, because it's a little bit lower risk because there's less transactions coming through. So you can really start to do the things that you say, oh, I've not got time for that. I've not got time to look at the checkout and see how people are converting, or make changes, significant changes to the customer funnel. I know the flow of data won't be there in terms of the scale. However, what you will be able to do is kind of get your customer journey and your conversion funnel specifically, and looking at what that looks like and really go into a detailed kind of deep dive into that. So conversion rate at the moment, for a lot of businesses, doesn't matter if you're lead gen and someone's filling in a form or picking up the phone, or if you're an e-commerce business selling products online, there will be some flux there, and there will be some flux for the remainder of the year. So we like to set up experiments with clients during that period of time. During any period of time, it's just best practice to do this. So one thing to help your kind of conversion rate optimization would be, which is just a fancy word for getting more sales for the same traffic. So if you're not going to get a lot more traffic, if you increase your conversion rate, you could get extra sales without increasing your traffic. Therefore, the investment isn't on your media spend, it's more on your actual conversion point, your website platform, or wherever you might be converting. So the tool that we like to use, it's a free tool, is called Google Optimize. Generally speaking, for the businesses who will be on this call, I'm assuming that majority of you guys, cash will be tight at the moment. Google Optimize is free. You can set it up. You can check kind of split test different things. You can see what's working well on one test versus another test. The beauty about this as well, you don't need a developer, which will be music to some people's ears. You can split test kind of a very basic thing I always like to do is split test button colors and button copy for wherever your call to actions are. So if it's buy now, it might say add to basket or whatever. It might change from red to green or yellow to blue or whatever it might be, and split test those two. You can do multi-variant, so you could do test 3 or 4 different variants. It just runs the test for you, run it for 6 to 8 weeks, and you're going to get some good data back as to how you can tweak your website to get good conversions through. Another thing around conversion rate optimization, it also impacts kind of traffic and other things, is your website speed. Website speed is just like, I'm convinced that this is one of the key ranking factors with Google. They did announce that in 2018 that mobile site speed is kind of one of the primary ranking factors when it comes to mobile. If you have an increased website speed or you have an improved website speed, your conversion rate increases as well. So that's all traffic coming through to your website. So people, when we come out of this kind of lockdown period, or even during this period of time now, everyone always wants a good experience anyway. People are going to be used to kind of getting things instantly and looking at things and looking through web pages and waiting for pages to load just doesn't kind of wash with people anymore. And I think even more so, I think we're gonna have less patience from a consumer perspective. I think people have probably gone without purchasing as much during this period of time. I know I've obviously spent a lot less money. You just kind of spend a lot of money on food, like a ridiculous amount on food for some reason. But consumer habits, you've got to have a good experience when you come through. If these people are used to buying on Amazon, etc., those guys are looking, sub 1 second website speed. So The recommendation is anywhere between 1 and 4 seconds page speed if you are going to do it. So run it through Google Page Insights, see what kind of scores you're getting out of 100 for mobile and for desktop. I would focus predominantly on your mobile experience and your mobile site speed. That's just because user behavior, and there's a lot more people using mobile phones. Also, as a supporting tool, I like to use something called GT Metrics, which gives you a backup piece of data to kind of look as a barometer as well. Benchmark that, check your site speed over a period of time as you're making these changes. Make sure your images are optimized as you're uploading them. Make sure from a site speed perspective, you're optimizing your code, your CSS, anything you can do with your server company, call the server company. If you've got a good server company with support, they'll be able to talk you through some things they can do on their side. If you're on an off-the-shelf platform like Wix or Shopify or whatever that's hosted elsewhere, generally speaking, they're quite fast. It just depends how complex your pages are or how large the kind of content files are on there. So all of these things kind of contribute towards conversion rate optimization. Firstly, just running some split tests both now and then post kind of lockdown to make sure that when people are coming back to the site and you're getting that flow of traffic through, that your kind of site is fit for purpose, and those kind of major rebuild jobs on checkouts and conversion pages, etc. Now's a good time to be doing that because you've got a lot less risk. And also website speed. Moz did a brilliant piece on so SEO Moz, or Moz as it's known now, moz.com/blog. If you go on there, there's a piece on there that says why website speed is so important. So I'd recommend anyone kind of read that. I know you've got a lot of time on your hands at the moment, so there's no excuse. Okay, so that was point number 2, conversion rate optimization and spending time to understand the data of what's going on in your conversion or your place of conversion, generally your website. So point number 2 of my digital strategy tips coming out of COVID is conversion rate. Spend some time on it. You'll reap the rewards because you're probably not going to get as much traffic as you used to. So you want to convert at a higher rate, okay? Point number 2 is you're going to need agility with your paid strategy. Like I said before, a lot of paid campaigns are finished, or like on hold or very low budgets, maybe some retargeting activity. And again, if you've assessed your customer funnel, you're happy with the conversion rate on your website, you'll then have the confidence to spend that cash that you've been saving on paid ads. So the 2 main areas where a lot of people are spending money on paid ads is Google AdWords platform, which covers Google Shopping, text ads, display, YouTube, etc., etc. And then paid social, which would cover things like Facebook, Instagram ads, maybe even Pinterest, maybe even LinkedIn, maybe Twitter if you're really committed to the Twitter platform, but the ad platform is terrible, so you're probably not doing that. So generally speaking, I'll talk in the context of what the majority of businesses will be using, which is kind of Google AdWords and then Facebook Business Manager. So I believe that the kind of the businesses that will win the most coming out of lockdown will be the businesses that have definitely kind of jigged their customer funnel for what's going to happen in the future, who have really good, strong conversion websites that are really quick and easy to use, which is just standard, but I believe that's going to be a real factor coming out of this lockdown. But I believe also it's the people who are going to be able to have that agility when it comes to their paid strategy. I think just plowing the money in, doing the same thing we've always done. We've been, bidding after this keyword for the last 2 years, and it's always made us money. I think those days are kind of over. I think those people who are running those ad accounts or those business owners, I think you really need to be looking at your strategy and make sure that you've got some agility in there. When it comes to planning, when it comes to creative, when it comes to your targeting strategies and audiences that you're going after. So I'll go through what I actually mean by that. But the businesses that just go back after this lockdown and turn on their digital strategy as if nothing's finished, almost like we've just put it on hold, now we'll just turn it back on, everything's all good. It's not. Please don't do that, because you probably end up wasting a lot of money that you've probably not got at the moment, let's be honest. So what do I mean by an agile paid strategy? First and foremost, you need to understand what your attribution model is. This is one of the first conversations. It's one of the most complex conversations that I have with clients. You have to understand which channels are generating value, the ones that are driving conversion. Because what happens is Facebook gives you one set of data, Google gives you another set of data, and they both say that they're claiming that this person, just say it was me and I bought this black t-shirt, both of those are trying to claim and trying to attribute that sale to their ad platform to get you to spend more money with them. Now, what you probably need to do is assess that and say, right, okay, you've got time on your hands at the moment. If you've got a team or if you've got an agency or if you need some help, give me a shout. You need to look back over the last 12 months worth of data, look at the attribution and see what's really driving those customers through. Because I feel like coming out of this, during this period of time, a lot of paid activity is either paused or turned off completely. When you turn it back on and something you feel in the data looks like it's, or whatever you're getting reported back from your agency, it might look like it's not actually working. But that might have been the thing that was driving new customers to your brand all of these years or of these months, the months before now. So first and foremost, understand what your attribution model is. If you don't know what attribution model is, just Google it. There's loads of information out there about it. We've not got enough time for it right now, or contact me and I'll explain it to you. But it's so you can understand if you're investing £100 in your paid activity, that you're going to be getting £300-400 back from that channel, and making sure that when you start to create more agility and when you come out of this kind of lockdown period of time and you're turning those campaigns back on, that you actually know what's generating sales or leads or whatever it might be. Okay, so that's the first thing. Understand your foundations, understand your channel mix, and understanding that what options you have available when you're coming out of lockdown. So they're the kind of first things. So understanding where the money's going in and where the money's coming out, essentially. The next step I would say is, and this is something you should be doing now, I believe, and I've discussed this a lot with my team, people who I've worked with in the past. I believe a lot of paid social and a lot of paid advertising in general is like 80% content, 20% ad platform. So 80% of what goes on from an 80% of what goes on from a conversion perspective, I believe, is down to the creative. Because once you set up your ad campaigns and you're running different creative against different audiences, the thing that happens at the moment is there's a lot of us where you're scrolling through and you just scroll. I mean, during lockdown, I'm sure it's even worse for you guys. It is for me. You just feel yourself like I'm just on it, and there's not even anything to even look at anymore. There's no offers. There's a limited amount of content going on there. It's more of a organic community feel of people supporting other people who are doing good things. And I think when we come out of lockdown, I think you're going to have to just really strong content, because all of those bigger brands, when they can, they will be investing in the content, whether they're shooting it in-house now or they're getting user-generated content. They'll probably be planning individual campaigns of how you phase out of this. So I'd create almost like a paid advertising roadmap from a content perspective. And if you've got a team that isn't on furlough and they're looking, they need to do something right now, I would be spending time creating content, both for paid channels and for organic channels. So that will impact your kind of paid ads through display or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or Pinterest. But it'll also help you if you can create content, some deeper lying content that goes on from an SEO perspective, which I'll touch on in a second. So I believe 80% content, 20% just how to work the ad platform itself. Once you get kind of good marketing funnels and good retargeting strategies, it actually just comes down to targeting the audience and having great creative for that audience. So again, when we go back to the first point, which was customer funnel and understanding your customer, what content does that customer want to see coming out of lockdown? Because if you think it's the same 60% off, we're out of lockdown, 60% off, you can now buy from us 60% off, that is not strong enough. And if you go out to market with that, you're not going to get anywhere. You'll get sales, yes, and don't let the numbers fool you. That's not a long-term strategy. How are we adding value? What's changed in your customers' lives? What's changed in somebody who, from a sports athleisure perspective, a lot more people are being active right now. It means that people will probably continue to be more active coming out of this. Or, if you're a high street business or if you're a B2B business, what's actually impacted your customers? Start with your customers and then start to create content segments for those people that are going to be quite targeted to those audiences. Targeted content always gets the best conversions. It's as simple as that. It sounds simple, but it's not necessarily, everyone kind of gets that if if you're sending ads to me, it's going to be a certain type of ad, right? I think the key thing that some people need to understand, or some people need to kind of look at when it comes to the content creation, is the biggest challenge is actually the scale of it. It's not actually the thinking, it's the actual scale. So what you need to do is look at the kind of segments of the content, create your roadmap from a paid perspective, and see when you're going to be pushing those campaigns out there. You'll have your marketing calendar already, but let's look at these micro pieces of content during post lockdown and see how you can do that. I mean, a lot of brands out there using user generated content. TikTok is a prime example of user generated content at scale. Those guys have just got 2 billion downloads of the app, which is, I think it was, it's only like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp who've done that from a social media perspective. So those guys, pretty much their entire advertising campaign is based on user generated content. So can you get user generated content during this period of time, or post lockdown? What are the stories from your customers that you can tell, and then try and attach the brand to it in a positive light. So investing in your content, making sure that you understand your attribution, and then making sure that from a platform perspective, that if you're working with an agency or a freelancer, or you're doing it yourself and it's your team, that you're not just going back to things and just turning things back on. Reassess those audiences, reassess where those emerging trends are going to be coming from. I'm sure there's a disproportionate amount of people using social media now compared to what's going to happen when normal life resumes. I would assume that when we can all start to have face-to-face conversations instead of weird live chats with people like me, that you're going to find that people have less time on their hands on actual social media platforms. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at content, making sure that the kind of don't just turn it back on kind of thing, and creating that agility to be able to react. Because if you've got a roadmap of content and your user generated content seems to be working really well, if you've already got a pre-made bank of content that is user generated, you can just keep pushing that through into the market. I think that the kind of final thing as well when it comes to any kind of paid strategy moving forward is just making sure that you've got a real strong grasp of what the numbers are. ROAS figures may change. I know a lot of businesses say, right, okay, if I'm spending, and for those who don't know, ROAS means return on ad spend. So if I spend £100 and I get £1,000 back in sales, that's a 10 to 1. Or if I get £500 back in sales, that's a 5 to 1. So a lot of brands and a lot of businesses would benchmark around a 4 to 1 and above on ROAS, 4 or 5 to 1. I think we all need to take it, kind of be honest with ourselves and understand that the return on investment on paid ads might not be what it was pre-COVID. I believe that the remainder of 2020 until maybe Black Friday, depending on what happens with the lockdown restrictions and everything else, I believe that both B2B businesses and B2C businesses, I believe your ROAS benchmark expectations from a client perspective need to be lowered. I think you need to be seeing more about your engagement metrics, see if you can get those conversions coming through. But I think it's more of like a long-term brand building exercise as we come out of this. And then hopefully those customers will stay with you and convert with you further down the line when they've got a little bit more security, a lot less risk, and a lot more kind of stability in their lives. So point 3 for me in this kind of coming out of COVID from a digital strategy perspective is just making sure that you've got that paid strategy, you've got a plan in place, you've got a plan B, C, and D when it comes to your content and your targeting, and don't give up on it because it will generate return. It's just, it might not be immediate. Okay, so the 4th point in my digital strategy tips is basically email is old but gold. Email marketing has been a bit of a winner during this period of time. I found a report, it's called the BounceX Retail Pulse Study. And BounceX have basically taken a look at North America, but they've also taken a look at UK. And they found that during this period of time, kind of lockdown, that conversion rates are up on email marketing and also revenues up from email marketing. So although a lot of other channels are kind of on that progressive downward curve, you're actually seeing from an email channel perspective that is doing quite well in certain sectors. I would say that I'm not surprised by that, and I'm sure you're not either. I'm quite happy because kind of one of my first jobs was building emails back in the day, about 13 years ago. Um, but yeah, I think email is one of those tactics and one of those strategies that as people have a little bit more time on the hand, maybe they can pay a little bit more time to what's bouncing, what's jumping into their inbox kind of thing. And then I believe that a lot of people, when they're looking at email marketing, instead of just thinking about that kind of push, here's a marketing message, here's a marketing message, you know, people have had to think about what those messages are and being sensitive towards the situation at the moment. We all have to be sensitive. Anybody who's a marketer or anybody who works in this industry, you've got to be sensitive to it. You've got to know your customers and you've got to send them content and information that is relevant to them. Nothing has changed in that respect, but I believe that email coming out of this actually could be one of those channels that does quite well. And it's less of an investment than say like big kind of 6-figure or 5-figure paid advertising strategies. And I believe you're going to get more of a return from it initially when it comes to engaging with your existing audience. We know you've not purchased with us during lockdown. It's all good. We understand. But here's a great bring back, or here's a great piece of content, or here's our lockdown story as a brand. I think a lot of brands are probably developing their lockdown story, or they're even pushing them out there right now. So again, it's all the basics. It's understanding your customers. It's making sure that, and again, this is another good thing to be doing during this period of time, is just making sure that your CRM segmentation, everything's working from that side of things. You can spend time doing all those things that were like, oh, I've not got time to do that. I've not got time to go through my database and look at my top 100 customers and send them a personal email from the X somebody in the business, whether it's the CEO or it's the marketing manager or whatever. These are all the things that you should be doing. Lapsed customers, abandoned basket, people who've been the most loyal customers over time, people who've purchased the most with you. These all kind of customers that have dropped off and everything else. So email marketing kind of as a tactic and a strategy, it's definitely changed, and it's got a lot more competitors around it in terms of social media, whether that's organic or paid, and paid advertising and SEO. But at the end of the day, people have the phones on them at all times, and if you can connect with them in their inbox with a good piece of content or a good proposition, I still believe email marketing is critical, particularly in like a B2B space. Okay. So that's my fourth tip of digital strategy. Email kind of is old, but it's still gold in my eyes. And the final, on the fifth point, is SEO is, I believe SEO is as important now as it ever has been. A lot of the brands and a lot of the businesses that are working on SEO strategies over the last 6, 12, 2 years, whatever it might be, 6, 12 months or 2 years, if you've been working on your SEO strategy and you're in good position, well done, because during times like this when ad spend drops off, the only traffic you're going to be getting through is through direct organic SEO, through Google, or you're going to be getting it through kind of social media and email marketing, other things like that. So those people who rely on your paid strategy and don't really care about your SEO strategy, it's probably a bit of a rude awakening, really, because there's a lot going on in the SEO world, and there has been a lot going on in the last 6 months in terms of algorithm updates. So a couple of things that you guys need to be aware of. Again, like I said before, site speed, it's becoming more and more critical. Every client that I've worked with where we've improved the site speed, they've increased their organic SEO traffic, and they've also increased their organic SEO sales and conversion rate. So site speed, making sure you're doing that. Making sure that you're running your technical audits. If you don't run a monthly technical audit and chip away at those tasks that come out of the audit, you really need to be doing. So this will be on any SEO roadmap for any kind of decent freelance SEO or agency that you're working with. They will do checks each month, but now's a good time to actually do those bigger changes that are really going to have the biggest impact on your site moving forward, whether that's restructuring your navigation, looking at optimizing the platform for speed, or whether it's looking at things like your content hub and upgrading your content hub. Now's the time to be doing those things. So those technical audits are really going to get you your kind of key tasks that are going to be fixing your website from a technical standpoint. One thing that's happened is, obviously, given what's going on at the moment, there's lots of new emerging trends. So I would advise you to either ask your SEO or whoever's going to be doing that from your perspective to get on the Google Trends and have a look at Google kind of keyword research. We work with a lot of homeware clients. There's a lot of other clients in other sectors where there are just these new emerging trends that have never been there before, but people's searching behaviors are changing in Google. Particularly on mobile phones, they're searching for things and they're kind of going out and researching things that pretty much weren't high volume before, but now they've kind of increased. You can steal the marks on your competition by creating content around that, creating services pages or category pages around that, trying to generate some links around it as well. So they're the kinds of things that, from a new topic perspective, that for the remainder of this year particularly, there are new shopping categories kind of coming out, or new services that people need that kind of didn't exist before. And that kind of innovation in your keyword strategy is going to be, I think, the difference between people coming out of this and winning and people staying still or even like kind of go behind. One key thing as well during this period of time, especially during lockdown and coming out of this period of time, is that content calendar. If you've got a team of people who can create a lot of content, they should be creating kind of power SEO content, as I describe it. Don't try and do 10 500-word pieces around topics that are really low kind of keyword volume or not that much value. I would really focus this period of time on going after the big things that are in your industry. So if you the ultimate guide to, or the definitive guide to, or everything you need to know about top 50, whatever it might be, really do the research. And these kinds of blog posts should be taking you like a week or two to create. So you've got your research phase. What's going to be applicable to the audience? What kind of keyword volumes can we go for? What are my primary, secondary, and tertiary keywords that I'm going to be looking at in this post? Then after that, it comes into all the planning phase. And then after you've come up with the plan and you know what you're going to be creating, it's then really a case of, right, okay, let's create some amazing content. So not just written form, you need visual in there. You need a couple of days creative going into it. You need to have unique content going in there, whether that's images, videos, audios, podcasts, whatever it might be, including that into your SEO strategy and these new kind of power posts that you're going to be putting out there. And then also, once they go live, you need to be researching the kinds of people who are going to be linking back to that post or even contributing to that post, which we find works quite well as well. So then instead of creating 10 500-word posts, you should be creating 1, 2.5, maybe up to 5,000 posts. I've recently launched my own website, casey-digital.co.uk. Of course, I'm going to plug it. On there, I don't think I have a blog post that's less than 1,800 words, just shy of 2,000 words. Every single post is over 2,000 words, and I'm really focusing on trying to get that kind of, because what happens is you actually target like 5 or 6 different keywords within one post instead of just going after one keyword for a smaller piece. So making sure that you're doing that. As with any SEO strategy, if you've not got a 6-month roadmap, you really need one, and you really need to kind of get a hold of that. So the kind of 5th and final tip from me before I take questions from you guys on this live stream is SEO is as important as ever. Make sure you've got your roadmap in place. Make sure you're creating that SEO power content, and make sure that your website is fully optimized for this period of time and coming out of this period of time, and that will pay dividends in both traffic in the next 6 months and hopefully sales as well for you, or conversions and lead gen for your business. Thank you very much to everyone at Uspace. Make sure that when this kind of lockdown's over and when we're all getting back together, make sure you guys get down and see the Uspace once everything's kind of lifted. It's an amazing space, lots of kind of collaborative working going on in there. There's a lot of really friendly people. I have interesting conversations in there all the time with a lot of different people from different walks of life. So they're really building something there, which is a really nice community of really kind of switched on, like-minded people. So thank you for everyone who's listened. Cheers to Uspace, and I hope you guys have a really good remainder of your day. Thank you for tuning in. See you later.